Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this seminar. Greetings from Berlin, which today is cloudy, and thank you for the many greetings we have received from all over Europe. What's News in Brussels has been a staple of ACA's annual event program for many years. This year, for many reasons, is special. Irina has already mentioned that. There's the pandemic, there's Brexit, there's the launch of the new generation of the Erasmus program, there's the launch of Horizon Europe. There are two Commission communications on the future of the European education and the European research area. And the communication on the European education area mentions and launches a transformation agenda for higher education. By the mentioned in the communication that would benefit from or maybe undergo a transformation rather than just a transition. Some keywords in the communication are connectivity among institutions, inclusion, digital and green readiness and resilience, innovation. Erasmus, including the European University Initiative and Horizon Europe, are also major tools for the Union to influence change in higher education. So policy and programming, the traditional two topics of these policy seminars, meet there. Our specific focus today is on what international cooperation and mobility programs can contribute to meaningful and progressive change in higher education, as they have done so impressively in the past with the Bologna process. Internationalization has been and continues to be a motor for domestic reform. It's a privilege to discuss the direction and impact of the upcoming policy developments firsthand with a high-level panel of two policymakers on the European level and the chief executives of two national funding agencies and ACA member organizations. Let me very briefly introduce our distinguished panelists. Themis Christophidou is the Director General for Education, Youth, Sport, Culture at the European Commission. She has graciously stepped in for Commissioner Gabriel, who was on the original program, as you all know, and unfortunately needed to cancel her participation due to another commitment. Christophidou has been with the Commission for more than 20 years and has served as chef de cabinet for not less than 3 different commissioners, and thus knows the mechanisms and rules of policymaking in Brussels pretty well. Michaela Šojdrová is a member of the European Parliament and sits in the Culture and Education Committee of the European Parliament. Ms. Šojdrová has been a member of the European Parliament since 2014 and had previously served as a member of the Czech Parliament. We are glad to have an elected representative of European citizens with us today. Dana, Director of the Czech National Agency for International Education and Research since 2016 and has been serving for a couple of years on the ACA Administrative Council and has been elected Vice President last year. DZS is an example for those ACA members who are both national agencies for the EU programs and administer programs funded from national sources. Grażyna Żebrowska is the director of the Polish National Agency for Academic Exchange, NAWA. NAWA is a pretty young and fast-growing organization. It is not the Polish National Agency for the EU programs and thus focuses on national internationalization programs. Grażyna has been at the helm of NAWA since last May. Thanks to all of you for being with us. To launch the discussion, I will ask each panelist a question, and they will reply in five minutes. We will then have a Q&A session with the audience. You can ask your questions during the opening, the Q&A button on your screens. Irina Ferenc will help me in selecting those questions that best reflect the interest of the audience at large, one for each panelist. We will then have their replies 2 minutes each before I stick to those time limits for the benefit of everybody and your fellow panelists. Let me start to ask a question to you, Director General Christophidou. I've already mentioned the transformation agenda in higher education as spanning from the broader framework of the European education area communication. What is this transformation agenda? Why would higher education need such a transformation? And where should it ultimately lead to? What would the EU funding programs that you are also responsible for contribute to bring about this transformation? Ms. Christophidou, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon from rainy Brussels. Dear Ulrich, thank you for this introduction. Dear Michaela, dear Dana, dear Grażyna, ladies and gentlemen. It's a real pleasure to take part in this seminar series, What's New in Brussels, on behalf indeed of Commissioner Maria Gabriel, who unfortunately could not be with us today. Academic cooperation is at the core of ACA's work as much as it is at the core of our own work in the field of higher education at the European Commission. Through cooperation, our universities grow, their students, staff, and researchers grow, and the impact of their work becomes bigger. Currently, we're focusing our efforts on making this cooperation stronger and deeper. Since years, the vast majority of universities in Europe has been working hard to give the best education and opportunities to young people to conduct research at high level and to innovate. They have also channeled this work to develop solutions to pressing challenges to make a difference in their regions for the benefit of their economy and their society. At the same time, in recent years, the increased complexity of our socioeconomic systems, the fast pace of technological developments, and the harsh competition to access funding have become obstacles that prevent universities across Europe from reaching their full potential in all their missions. When the COVID-19 pandemic came, it accelerated a process that had already started, and it helped give it even greater purpose and focus. Universities across Europe proved to be capable to react, to change rapidly to new practices, to innovate the way they teach, they assess, they manage projects, and the way they cooperate. This is where the higher education transformation agenda comes into play. We need to turn this process into a fundamental structural transformation of European higher education. We need to create the right conditions for universities to become more interconnected, to innovate, to open, to be more inclusive, digital and sustainable. Why? Because no university alone can tackle the challenges Europe faces: health and well-being, digitalization, climate change, energy, and the circular economy, and of course, and very importantly, equity. We also want this agenda to support European higher education in their efforts to become more attractive at a global level, more relevant and more competitive. This agenda will support the transformation of the European higher education while respecting the diversity of its institutions, because this diversity is a strength. We see this clearly through European universities, where we wanted universities to represent the diversity of our union, to connect across the continent, not just between the largest ones, but to link East and West, North and South. The added value of the agenda is that it will be shaped in close collaboration with the higher education community. It's their agenda, it's your agenda. Initial discussions with stakeholders have already identified connectivity, inclusion, digital and green readiness, as you already mentioned, Ulrich, innovation and international competitiveness as possible areas of focus. Soon, we will launch an online public consultation to reach out to a wider audience, as well as targeted consultation events in which we count on your active participation. To meet our objectives, European funding programs will, of course, have an essential role. We will have a reinforced Erasmus program, almost double the budget, which will have a bigger impact. But we look for synergies also with other programs. For example, the full rollout of the European universities under Erasmus Plus will be supported also by Horizon Europe, the Digital Euro program, and other EU instruments. We've also ensured that the main priorities of the Erasmus Plus and Horizon Europe programs are aligned with the higher education transformation agenda. I'm glad to see that the seminar will give us the opportunity to discuss this in detail. Ladies and gentlemen, the transformation agenda is at the heart of the European education area. With member states and with our stakeholders, we are striving to make this area a genuine space of learning, a space that offers prospects and that creates opportunities, a space where we not only find solutions to the problems of today, but where we design together the world we want to live in tomorrow. We count on your collaboration so that together we can achieve this ambitious vision. Thank you for your attention, and I'm at 5 minutes exactly.
Thank you so much for inviting all of us to contribute to this joint effort, to this joint discussion. May I now pass over to Michaela Šojdrová and ask her to switch on her video, perhaps. You have, I understand that you're on the European education area, a shared holistic approach to education skills. Of course, we are particularly interested in the higher education part. What are your expectations towards the transformation agenda in higher education that the Commission has and wishes to develop in dialogue with all of us? So what is your expectations toward the transformation agenda and towards the role that higher education institutions can play in this transformation process? The floor is yours, Ms. Šojdrová.
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to thanks to you for invitation to be member of this panel. Of course, I will focus on your on this content because it's about tertiary education. But let me a little bit introduce how we are thinking about European education era, because now for us in European Parliament really is the topical issue. So we had this week and previous week video conferences with stakeholders, with members of the Parliament. So we see in common education area that it's not something new. Excuse me. It has been in place for a long time as a nature product of our common historical culture, spiritual roots. So let's remember the cooperation between European universities dating back to the Middle Age period. So we didn't start, but we continue. We have the legacy. The European Union is a chance to develop this legacy, and we are on the way to doing so. I would like to remind that since 2009, we have had the Council Strategic Framework for European Cooperation in Education. And now we have on the table the new strategic framework towards the European education, also from Member States Council. In parallel, there is a vision of the European Commission to achieve the European education area by 2025. And European Parliament is preparing its report as a reaction to the differing Commission and Communication and Council resolution of core universities, including. Logically, there is a question which European education area we would like to have. So it's the perspective what we look. As the rapporteur on the European education area for European Parliament, I intend to put forward a report that will be realistic and will aim at common strategy towards the European education area shared by all institutions, all actors. That's why I would like to use this platform, your conference to include your visions, your expectations. In general terms, the European education area needs a clear implementation strategy and evaluation framework, and avoid only stockpiling documents and recommendation without implementing them. So in this context, I should be said that the deadline 2025 is maybe too ambitious. As you know very well, in tertiary education, you see longer strategies, longer perspective. As also national agencies for Erasmus+, we have 7 years for implementation. We should clarify governance arrangements with regards to the type of member states participation, because we have to do together. We will now let me focus on higher education, which is the topic of this conference. We need to seek for synergies with the European higher education area, which is now building, and to clarify the geographical scope on the European education area. We would be said if we starting build something new, while we cannot ignore the results achieved under the Bologna process. In opposite, this process should be intercontinental. For me, it's the base with the European education for the European education goals. We should therefore be able to reach out to non-EU countries, especially now United Kingdom. Of course, we continue in Ukraine, Turkey, and others. We need to seek synergies with the European research area, because research is the second mission of universities. If we look so we have to do it. We should strengthen this in Europe, use the program. We have Erasmus, European Universities Initiative, and the Horizon Europe. It's also linked with the topic of academic freedom. It will be in our approach in Parliament very important priority, which is very important for all universities. We need to consult stakeholders in the policy-making process. I am glad that the European University Association has been invited by the Commission as an official consulting body for the European education area. As far as the tertiary education quantitative targets, we should be careful. I mentioned two visions, Commission, Council. This should be accompanied by qualitative targets. The Commission is proposing 50% as tertiary education attainment by 2030, while the Council proposes 45%. So, but I think for me it doesn't matter, because what we want that all children, all young people reach their maximum. So if there is 50 or 45, maybe it would be 60. What is important is the quality. These figures create some maybe controversy, but among experts, but we want to put together and we want to continue. So what I would like also take the note, because we are speaking about European University. Ms. Christophidou mentioned European University. Of course, it's one of the cornerstone of the European education era, Erasmus also. For me, all universities in Europe should include European dimension in their program, in their education, in their research. not only universities, but all schools in European education should include European dimension. So for me, all universities should be European universities in the European Union. So it's just my notes for this. Perhaps the most tangible outcomes of the European education era could be the idea of the automatic mutual recognition of higher education learning outcomes. So this is our very important targets for the next maybe 5, maybe 10 years.
Would you conclude, Ms. Šojdrová?
Pardon?
Would you conclude?
Yeah, to conclude, of course. It's my last point, because I think it could be really a tangible result of this strategy, one of the tangible results. And I will be glad to listen to your intervention, which would serve as a valuable input to our report in European Parliament. So again, thank you very much for invitation. And I am looking forward for the cooperation and discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Šojdrová, for pointing out the perspective of the Parliament, which is, of course, very important in this entire process. May I continue, as we are running out of time, may I continue right away with Dana, say not from the politician's bird's perspective, but rather from the people on the ground. What can actually higher education cooperation and mobility, like you and other member organizations are funding, what can it contribute to make higher education better in the sense that were pointed out by the other speakers? Dana.
Thank you, Ulrich. Good afternoon to everyone and warm greetings from sunny Prague. I'd like to begin by saying that national level agencies play definitely an important role in supporting transformation in higher education through internationalization. And personally, I think there is potential for continued development of this role in line with the current priorities and trends in international education. National agencies are in a unique position to provide links between the policy and operational level in internationalization and work in close cooperation with both ministries and universities to turn the policy objectives into concrete actions. The profile of many national agencies has changed quite substantially in recent years. In our particular situation, the agency has grown into a central umbrella organization, managing more than 20 programs and networks, including the Erasmus Plus program for all the sectors. Most of our programs in higher education deal with international mobility and university cooperation. But there is also a growing number of initiatives supporting wider internationalization at university level, including capacity building of university staff, monitoring of internationalization, and promotion abroad. These structural changes, combined with the new policy priorities and challenges arising from the COVID-19 pandemic, bring along new opportunities for the national agencies. And in our case, we are currently developing the following areas. First of all, we systematically build our socially responsible approach and integrate the new horizontal priorities into the core activities of the national agency. We believe that the new priorities will largely determine the directions of international education in the next decade. In order to address these priorities, we have recently adopted a new complex CSR strategy, which covers not only sustainability issues, but also goals related to inclusion and digitalization. The basic idea behind the strategy is to include the horizontal priorities into all our programs and functioning of the national agency as such. In higher education, we will focus mainly on promoting the concept of internationalization for all and supporting universities in developing digital procedures and new digital learning opportunities for students and staff, which we consider to be crucial and very important tool for achieving inclusion and diversity. We will also actively promote the acquisition of global competencies and inspire mobility participants to make their international experience more sustainable and socially responsible. This new CSR approach will be also reflected in our work with the media, which helps us to positively influence public opinion about the impact of international education on individuals, institutions, and society. And secondly, in order to increase competitiveness, on one hand, we focus very much on promoting Czech universities abroad, and we invest a lot into international marketing. And on the other hand, we support universities in developing strategic approach leading to comprehensive internationalization. In this context, Erasmus Plus is without a doubt a major instrument to achieve deeper and more ambitious transnational cooperation. And we try to find new ways to help our universities to use the program actively and really strategically by seeing the potential and added value of the program as a whole. To achieve this, we focus mainly on increasing competencies of university staff related to development of internationalization strategies. We create new platforms for training and capacity building activities and organize external evaluations and expert visits at Czech universities, which provide recommendations for enhancing internationalization at institutional level. We promote the concept that internationalization is not a goal in itself, but a means of increasing quality and excellence in higher education, and therefore also a way of ultimately supporting the transformation that we are talking about and international competitiveness of universities. Finally, I would like to emphasize that the success of all the new initiatives depends to a large extent on the active engagement of all of us. All universities and other stakeholders, including the national agencies, university networks, and other associations like ACA. And we need to be aware of this and find innovative ways of cooperation at the international level. And in this respect, I personally see great benefits in working together with the other ACA members, motivating each other and coordinating our efforts to deliver on the high ambitions connected with the upcoming transformation agenda. Thank you for your attention, and back to Ulrich.
Thank you so much, Dana, for your intervention and also for keeping right in. The last speaker in this first round is Grażyna Żebrowska, and my question is the same as the one I put to Dana. So what can institutions, member states contribute to meaningful change in higher education through international? Grażyna, the floor is yours. I think you need to unmute your mic. I can't hear you.
Now?
Yeah.
Yes, sorry about that. So again, good afternoon. Thank you very much for invitation to this panel, very important for us. NAWA is an example of national agency which is not operator of Erasmus Plus program. Our activities based on national funds, but we constitute the European higher education area, not only geographically, but we do share common values and goals. It is important to ensure that synergy of national and European activities, as Michaela said. The role of agencies like NAWA can be complementary to the activities undertaken at an European level. Moreover, we can also support and inspire each other. NAWA has experience at the synergy between national and European activities. Just to mention one NAWA program, UAM Seal of Excellence. This program intended to finance the projects that obtain the Seal of Excellence certificate under the Maria Skłodowska-Curie program, but haven't yet received the funding. NAWA recognized the European Seal of Excellence certificate as a binding verification of the quality of the application and was able to finance these projects. The contribution on national level funding to the transformation in higher education is significant. Thanks to national funding, we can also contribute to the internationalization of universities through NAWA institutional programs, and thus we support the competitiveness of higher education institutions both Polish as well as the European and international partners. To ensure competitiveness, we have designed programs such as the STER program, aimed at supporting the institutional capacity of Polish higher education institutions through the creation and implementation of international study programs at doctoral schools. We also offer the Polish Returns program that allows prominent Polish scientists to return to our country and take up employment in Polish higher education institutions, scientific units, or research institutes. I should say that one of the aims of this program is to prevent brain drain. Another example of the synergy between national and European activities is the NAWA International Academic Partnerships Program. NAWA provided national funding worth about 23 million euros in the course last year for Polish universities that could apply, among others, for additional funding to prepare and participate in the European Universities Initiative. When it comes to inclusion, again, a cooperation at the national and European level is crucial. In these difficult times of pandemic, we cannot forget about the groups that need our support, groups with special needs or disabilities. We should continue to widen the access of underrepresented groups to higher education. NAWA has recently established a declaration of support for those groups and managed to invite other Polish institutions active in the field of higher education and science to join this initiative. Polish, the National Center for Science and the Foundation for Polish Science. The declaration aims to create a flexible approach to group of people with special needs. The director of NAWA may waive the application of selected rules of the program for persons with disabilities if compliance with them would be excessively difficult due to the type of disability. This will contribute to ensuring that this group has equal conditions for participation in competition or project implementation in comparison with other program beneficiaries. And we hope that it will result in wider participation by these groups in NAWA programs. With respect to inclusion, we cannot forget about the countries and regions where the situation is harder than in Europe. That is why we continue to support students from developing countries with the Polish Aid program, managed in cooperation with the Polish Ministry of Foreign Affairs. In past year, we have awarded NAWA scholarships to students from developing countries. At the same time, we support Polish universities in preparing tailor-made guidance in increasing and improving support and welcome services to ensure that international students are supported in proper integration on campuses. In order to do so, Polish universities can benefit from NAWA institutional program, including the Welcome to Poland program. At the end, I would like to mention the initiative that I am, as a director of NAWA, particularly proud of. Last year, we decided to express solidarity with Belarusian students who found themselves in a difficult situation due to political crisis in Belarus after presidential election in August 2020. We had to act quickly because the situation was getting worse. In close cooperation with Polish universities represented in the Conference of Rectors of Academic Schools in Poland, we managed to launch the NAWA scholarship program, Solidarity with Belarus. More than 800 Belarusian students have benefited from this program and received a scholarship to study at 75 Polish higher education institutions. And 35 researchers made home at Polish research institutions. We believe that support to Belarus should be also developed and continue at a and European level. Therefore, we gladly support EU for Belarus initiative led by Lithuanian agency. That's all from my side, and now floor is yours.
Thank you, Grażyna. We are somewhat behind schedule, and it so happens that we have only one question from the audience, so that that fits well. And that one question that I would like to Themis and Michaela to very briefly comment on is on the relation between higher education and research. So the question, in fact, is, are we in effect moving via the transformation agenda to an integrated European education and research area through having synergies, thus reflecting the interconnections across the missions of a higher education institution? So we all know that we've now one commissioner for both education and research, but in practical terms, are we going to see an integrated education and research area? Very brief replies, please, from Themis and Michaela. I'm afraid we won't have time for more answers. Themis.
I think that synergies is the key word that it has been leading our work for a while now. Actually, we have long moved from believing that higher education, that universities have a sort of three-dimensional mission, what we call the knowledge triangles. Now we're convinced that we have a knowledge square, and that the universities have a sort of role that is fourfold. It's education, is research, is innovation, and service to society. And we think that all of them need to be served in a balanced way. And absolutely everything is about synergies and connecting the work. The best we can do is not have overlapping work, but to have work that reinforces and complements each other. And if you allow me 2 seconds more, I very much share Michaela Šojdrova's ambition for an automatic mutual recognition of learning outcomes and even of jobs throughout the European Union. I think this is a shared ambition and a very important one, and we are going to work towards it together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Themis. Michaela, you have the last words.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. I think that the European education era we would like that it's an overarching initiative, overarching project. And if we are speaking about education area, we have to speak in the same time about the research area. So I think the very good example where we have synergies as obligatory, they are cohesion policy. There is cohesion policy and cohesion program, structural program, because there is obligatory to have cohesion, to have synergies. We build new capacities in research. It should be also capacities for education in university. So it should be every time together. I think in the time we are not, it's not so developed on the European area, but we should to do it for the future. I think it's our goal. Thank you.
Thank you so much to both of you for your short and succinct answers. I'm very sorry, Dana and Grażyna, that we don't have the time for more contributions. As usual, with this topic, we could have easily used 3 hours instead of 50 minutes, but I hope it will be an inspiration and a stimulus for the further discussion in this policy seminar and in your institutions in between or your institutions in the future. And with that, I would like to thank all 4 panelists for contributing. And I'm so glad and so rare that I'm the only male person on this panel. It's much more frequently the opposite, and it shouldn't be. Okay, thank you so much. And I pass the floor to the next panel. Bye-bye.